You are listening to the book, Answering the Call, Making Sense of It and Taking Ownership of the Journey, authored and read by Nadu Denloye. The printed version was released in 2016. To quote the writer of the foreword, this book is about the profound life experiences of a child of God as she seeks to become the best that the Creator intended her to be. The proceeds of the book go towards 6 ministries the Nadu Denloye Trust has been supporting. I'm pleased to say that we have successfully disbursed the 3rd tranche of annual payments to these ministries this year, 2018. With your support, I hope to be able to sustain this giving for as long as I can. I've made this audio recording of the book, read by me, to further encourage your gift or donation to the Trust. Gifts, donations of any amount will be kindly welcome and can be paid directly to SITL/the Nadu Denloye Trust, Stanbic IBTC Bank, account number 001-698-9514. Please feel free to share this audio recording widely, and thank you so much for your support. Part 2, Chapter 6. Character and Competence, the Right to Lead. The definition of leadership I have adopted is influence, that is, living that kind of life that inspires followership and engenders the ability to shape and mold outcomes. As Stephen Covey aptly stated, trust is the basis of all relationships and as such is at the heart of leadership. In order to gain other people's trust, one needs to first earn that trust by showing that one is trustworthy. This, in turn, is based on both a person's character and competence. In order for people to consider you trustworthy, they should believe not only that you're good and honest, but also that you can do what they expect you to do. Take the example of 2 doctors. One is good and honest, but has no competence. The other is of questionable character, but is highly skilled. If you had to visit one, which one would you choose? The honest one who has a good heart but is not competent and ends up giving a wrong diagnosis that results in taking out 1 kidney? Or the competent one with a fraudulent heart who knows there really isn't anything wrong with you, but to earn a fat fee ends up taking out 1 kidney? Neither, I would imagine. Character and competence are mutually inclusive. You need both. People look up to others because they are dependable. They make decisions on principles and are thus always consistent. They believe in them because they can be expected to do the right thing, ethically and professionally. Research at Harvard University indicated that 85% of a leader's performance depends on personal character. Likewise, James Kouzes and Barry Posner, one of the best-known teams of management experts in the United States and authors of The Leadership Challenge, from a survey performed of several thousand people around the world and several hundred case studies, found that honesty was the most frequently cited trait of a good leader. The work of Daniel Goleman, The Emotional Intelligence of Leaders, also makes clear that leadership success or failure is usually due to qualities of the heart, God's honest truth, actions that back up the words and words that are congruent with the actions, people of integrity and honesty, people that can be trusted. That's what we look for in leaders. There's no gainsaying that having knowledge and skills in a particular area is also critical in the course of leadership preparation. Typically, it is in one's area of competence that the opportunity for leadership finds expression. Underscoring this are some statements by Socrates from the Greek classic The Iliad by Homer. Well, I suppose you know that under all conditions, human beings are most willing to obey those whom they believe to be the best. Thus, in sickness, they most readily obey the doctor. On board ship, the pilot. On a farm, the farmer, whom they think to be the most skilled in his business. Then it is likely that in horsemanship too, one who clearly knows best what ought to be done will most easily gain the obedience of the others. The competency dimension of trust embraces faith in one's ability, knowledge, and judgment in a particular field based on validated expertise in that field. While leadership is defined by one's field of expertise, the level of expertise defines the extent of one's influence. With the speed with which knowledge is accumulating in almost every sphere, one has to keep updating, expanding, and deepening one's knowledge to sustain a high level of competence in any area. Still, it is relatively easy to acquire skills that increase one's level of competence. The harder part is developing character, and in this regard, the beginning often determines the end. Sociologists suggest that people of poor character might have been different if they'd grown up in a better environment. False starts and weak foundations can be ruinous if not corrected somewhere down the line. While one's competence or expertise may make one's name known, it is character that sustains it and determines one's legacy. Time and truth force deception to surface, and credibility can vanish with a momentary moral sleep. Competence, the what you are becoming, added to character, the who you are becoming, make for what I term the preparation phase. And this phase may be traversed not with any consciousness of the consequences of one's choices, but as a byproduct of one's environmental influences. Both character and competence development are, however, long life processes of learning that continue to transpire iteratively over ensuing phases. Unconscious preparation. The circumstances in our lives seem random and unplanned, but someday we will surely see the order of God's hand. Spur. According to Dr. Clinton in his book, The Making of a Leader, in Phase 1, God providentially works foundational items into the life of the leader-to-be. The potential leader has little control over what happens. The operation is sovereign. Personality characteristics, experiences good and bad, and the time context will be used by God. The building blocks are there, though the structure being built may not be clearly in focus. Character traits are embedded. He stated that although there was little spiritual input in the lives of his 3 case studies during their foundational phases, yet it could be seen that God was sovereignly directing each life. Such, I believe, was my case. This foundational phase for me ties in with my pre-adult and early adult years. The former, growing up under my parents' wings and attending the secondary school I did, and the latter, attending university and building a career. I didn't understand or appreciate the value of the process at the time. Ben Bernanke, former chairman of the United States Federal Reserve, in the Princeton commencement address that he delivered in June 2013, made reference to a quote from the movie Forrest Gump about life being like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Looking in my own rearview mirror now, I can say that while one may never know where one is actually going to land, there can be some guarantee that you can land in a good place, even if it is not where you imagined you would. The key is taking ownership of your life. I certainly can't say that I attempted to do that starting out, and it wasn't until well into midlife that I began to get an inkling of an understanding of the need to do so. Sure, I hope to be successful in life, don't we all? Hope, however, is not a strategy. So for all that I could be considered fairly successful, a PhD at 25, and awards for co-founding and running a successful IT business in tow, these happened by chance. They happened in spite of my not having a vision for my life in view. I was just flowing with the tide, going through the normal sequence of life as I understood it. School and more school, graduation, marriage, work, and more work, period. Developing the right values. So, how did it happen? Thank God for the foundational years. Thank God for the environment I was brought up in. Thank God for the values transmitted at the time. Thank God for my parents. Thank God for the school I attended. Thank God for the career choice. Your environment is key, and more so in those foundational years. The life we end up with is ultimately an accumulation of the choices we make, and our choices are often shaped by our environment, predominantly culture and upbringing. To a large extent, we make choices and develop habits unconsciously, learning during the pre-adult years of dependence by osmosis. We invariably filter our decisions through the paradigms formed in the context of our environment. So, in a home and school environment where love was evidently exhibited and values of hard work, honesty and integrity and excellence were extolled and demonstrated, that for me was the norm, the way of life. I walked it not because I valued or appreciated its significance at the time. I didn't know anything different. I just flowed with the tide. So while I had or exercised little control over my life, God in His infinite mercy was providentially working the essential character traits for forming me into the leader that He wanted me to be. He was teaching me lessons in personal guidance, which subconsciously were at work in me over the following years. Self-acceptance, determined by the sense of belonging I felt within the family setting, and the application of values of hard work, honesty, integrity, and excellence, paved a path for me in my studies and subsequently in my career and social life. While I imbibed these basic values from childhood, my character continued to develop and deepen over time and continues to this day as work in progress. Developing competence. I studied electronic engineering at university, and this has demarcated my area of expertise. I chose electronic engineering not because I was passionate about it, but because I got a scholarship to study abroad for that. It was a choice made out of expediency, not with any thought in mind about my future prospects or purpose in view. Given the values and academic gifting, it was plain sailing. But when it was time to go out into the real world, I balked. I felt like a sham. I didn't think I knew anything, and I felt I would be exposed as a fake engineer. So I took the easy way out. The easy way out for me? I stayed back to do a PhD in my department, conducting research in the field of waveguide, excited, dielectric, sphere antenna. I did make a choice, but for a purpose-motivated reason? Certainly not. It wasn't a choice made in certainty of what I wanted in life. The insecurities I felt about getting into the workplace on completion of my first degree did not go away. Instead, they multiplied. So here I was with a PhD and no practical experience and still feeling very fake. The company I ended up working with after I completed my National Youth Service Corps program was a telecommunications engineering and consultancy services firm. I actually think that the fact that I was female and had a PhD in a predominantly male-dominated area at the time was a major factor in my employment. The company had only one other Nigerian engineer at the time, also a PhD holder, but employed on expatriate status along another 70-odd expatriate staff. Fortunately, when I got into the workplace, my values of hard work and high standards at whatever I put my hand to availed for me. These were the underlying forces behind my acquisition and development of skills. I applied myself to work fully and aggressively pursued opportunities that enabled me to develop my skills, with the result that I finally laid to rest the competence-related insecurities that plagued me. One of those opportunities was to agree to co-found a company, Telnet, with the late Dr. Buran Keru, the other Nigerian engineer with whom I worked. The company we worked for had hit tough times and the expatriates had been sent packing. I chose to join him not because I wanted to own something of my own, to make money, or at that time to particularly add value, but because I wanted to learn and grow. I greatly admired his technical aptitude and knowledge, and wanted to stay close to him to learn from him. With hindsight now, I suppose there must also have been a survival instinct at work in me to get rid of the insecurities around the competence issue. The technical skills in telecommunications I developed and continued honing proved to be very valuable for the times. So again, I thank God that when I wasn't really aware or conscious of the consequences of the choices I was making, He was providentially guiding me on my way. The choice of study and getting a PhD to boot, the values undergirding my attitude to work and taking up challenges, were the levers to developing competence and gaining recognition in a career in the then newly emerging information and communication ICT subsector. The pre-adult and early adult years, the foundational years, are what I now see and term as a period of unconscious preparation, a period of developing character and competence. As Dr. Clinton observed, there was little by way of any spiritual pursuit on my part. To listen and download this audiobook for free, please go to soundcloud.com or youtube.com and search for Answering the Call.
If you would like to make further inquiries about this audio recording or the ebook or print versions of the book, kindly send an email to answeringthecallaudio@gmail.com.